So I'm here today with the lovely Laura Michelle Wolff. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I'll tell you just a little bit about Laura Michelle, but probably she should introduce herself. She is actually a full service book publisher and a certified human design specialist who helps entrepreneurs create nonfiction books and businesses that sound and feel unmistakably like them, not like every other formulaic marketing method. And what a relief that is. Drawing on the advanced interviewing techniques she honed during FBI training, can't wait to hear about this, and her career in forensic interviewing, she uses human design to unleash authors and entrepreneurs' most authentic voices and turn them into services that build credibility, attract the right clients, and open new professional doors. This is so incredible. I'm not going to go on because I'm sure that we'll touch on a lot of the things that you do. But I want to start by saying that I just read your book, which you have to, my memory is so awful. You have to remind me at this moment what the title of your book is.
It's designed to captivate.
Designed to Captivate. Of course it is. And it is. And it's amazing. Truly, I can't recommend this book highly enough. It was a great overview of human design to begin with, like
Yeah.
that really put a lot of things into perspective for me because human
Oh,
design
good.
is really complex. So it was a really
Mhm.
nice kind of bird's eye view of the whole process. And then a super deep dive on the throat center,
Yes.
which is all about expression. And we're going to talk about that today. So thank you for coming on the podcast and thank you for writing such a useful book. It's really a reference tool
Yeah.
at the end of the day. That was I just said that before we started recording
Yeah.
that it's there were a lot of ahas in it for me, a lot
Oh,
of
good.
uh I learned about myself from reading that and uh and then, you know, of course at every moment some new trigger or challenge or something comes where you're going to be able to go back to those hints because you offer all kinds
Yeah.
of different ways of looking at the same piece of information.
Yeah.
Super
Thank
useful.
you. I'm so glad you found that useful. That's exactly what I want it to be. A reference that you can go back to. You can read it, try some things, experiment, come back. If you get stalled or stuck, or you're not getting heard, or you're being misunderstood, you can come back and go, oh, am I still in alignment with the things that, that come naturally, most naturally to me? But then you
Yeah.
can also leverage transits, because if those gates are not lit up in you all the time and the sun moves into that gate, you have access to those archetypes and themes for a whole week.
That's that's so cool. And that's a piece that I have yet to explore because I've not been, I mean, even human design is new for me. And
Well, and it's a lot.
I've not gotten into the um, like astrological part of it of sort of using the changes in the celestial
Yeah.
arrangements in the cosmos, uh, you know, considering how that's affecting me and my natural patterns, my
There's
design.
no way I could track it all, but Dr. Karen Curry Parker puts out a guide every year where you can just flip open the book on the date and it will tell you where the transits are. So, for example, if one of my throat gates is not typically defined, but the week of January 12th through whatever, the sun is in that gate, that means it's lit up in me too. And so then it's easier for me to talk about the themes in that gate. It's like a temporary plugging the toaster in,
Yeah. Wow.
temporary access. So I usually just get her book, or zenhumandesign.com puts out an ephemeris every year that will tell you week by week where all the planets are in the gate, because it is hard to understand and I need it simple where I can just open the book and see what's up.
That is so cool. Um, I just want to jump right in and ask you about
Yes.
FBI training and forensic interviewing. Like that's, I
Yeah.
had no idea about that, about
Well,
you. We
I didn't.
connected because I know that you're, an expert at human design.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't make the connection until last year that why interviewing people and getting into their voice easily is easy for me is because of that earlier forensic interviewing job, which I had a lot of training from the FBI and other trainings on how to interrogate and how to interview minutely, structured detail. In that case, it was looking for evidence. I was working in with children, and it was crimes against children, and so that was a rough job that I did from for 8 years in one capacity or another. But I had about 3 years where that's was a bulk of my job was forensic interviewing. And it's hard to interview adults and it's even harder to interview children. Um, but then last year I was like, oh, that's why I can interview someone for a book or a blog post or a lead magnet, whatever they're doing, is because I can go, back it up. Tell me this step, now this tiny step, now this tiny step. So that training has proved invaluable. Even I was a therapist. It it was I can look back now and go, oh, that's I've been using that skill all these years since 1996 in the different jobs I've done. So yeah, it was pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, no
Also
kidding.
very
I
exhausting.
I can only, no, I cannot imagine having to interview children under those circumstances. But another whole part of my work is working with, we would say, reconstituted families or blended families
Oh yeah.
after divorce
Yeah.
and separation.
Okay, yeah.
And uh, my special skill, I guess we could call it, for lack of a better word, is being able to feel into
Yeah.
um, the the energetic dynamic and understand uh, what the what a child, a specific child in a specific situation, is
Yeah.
um, feeling or experiencing or
That's
believing.
that's a gift.
That seems to help parents a great deal in being able to deal. But I mean, my clients are people who are um, being estranged or alienated from their
Mm,
children after
hmm.
divorce. And I mean, there's a whole, um, I want to say there's a syndrome, but that's not even the right word to use because it's different in every single person. It's not like a
Sure.
syndrome with blood work markers or something. There are behaviors that we recognize, but as I'm sure that um, very often um, children are moved to stand up for a parent who has harmed them, to try to defend a
Yes.
parent who has harmed them. And in this
Yeah.
case, these are children who are resolutely rejecting a parent who has not really harmed them,
Right.
or who did
Right.
one little thing that becomes
Yeah.
like a pebble that will never go out of your shoe. They're not allowed to ever forget it somehow.
Right.
Um, and so it's a completely different kind of suffering. But, very often kids will choose to sacrifice their own
Yes.
happiness
Yeah.
uh, to to care for one or the other of their parents, which is
Yeah.
both beautiful and very distressing.
Very distressing. But what a beautiful gift because in both scenarios, children can't articulate that don't have the words and the stuff. And so in both scenarios, it's really being able to articulate what the child would say themselves if they could.
Well, and
And
that
yeah.
brings us so smoothly into what we're talking about here,
Oh
the
yeah.
idea of articulating
Yeah.
or expressing. And this was like completely fascinating to me what you wrote about because not knowing that much about human design except the vague structure of it,
Yeah.
um, I I didn't realize that there were these 11 specific gates associated with the throat center, and how each of them has an archetypal coding
Yeah.
to it, which then expresses itself differently in each of the five energy types. And it expresses itself differently depending on whether it's open or closed.
Yeah.
And, all, like, so that just, it really was up my alley, all of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's if we thinking about books, it's like little instruction manuals inside all of these gates, and each gate has a different instruction manual, and you can use it to its most effective expression, or you can use it to its least effective expression. And what I have found, I've been doing human design since 2017 and doing readings since 2018, and then looking at my own um, defined areas in your chart, which if you're not super familiar, if you look at your body graph chart, I get mine at geneticmatrix.com, when you'll see all these different colors on your chart. And if there's and these little numbers, and if there's a color around that number, that means that instruction manual is yours for your whole life long.
Mm.
And when we can go and look at that and think, okay, I have the gate 56 in my throat. And
Me
that's,
too. I have that one.
yeah, it's a storyteller. I call it a storyteller. You're going to find different names and things. So it helps to read a lot of um, source material, the original source material, and then interpretations. And then I always throw in the gene keys
Yeah.
from Richard Rudd. I love those. So the 56 goes out, has experiences, and then comes back and shares them in story form. Here's what I experienced, and then you can take that and leverage it for yourself. So if I try to make myself just stick to the facts, I don't feel good because I would rather tell a story from something I've experienced or a client story or some sort of example of this happened, this happened, this happened, the end. It's just easier for me to do it. So then when I figured that out, I was like, my social media posts need to change. I need to use case examples. I need to use stories from my own life. And when I do that, I get more engagement because I'm in alignment. It comes naturally to me. What can happen is if you grow up with a storyteller component of how you're supposed to communicate, which is how we also manifest, but you get raised in a family of, say, scientists and engineers that are like, God, just what's your point? Just get to the point. And you're like, but I am getting to the point this way. But they want you to go this way to the point. Then that's what we call conditioning, is we put our storyteller part aside and we start forcing ourselves to get to the point. But that's not natural for us. And if you're running a business or you're trying to help people, then we have to go, but wait a minute, my natural, that is how I'm supposed to communicate. So now when we strip away conditioning, we can communicate authentically and then we can see the change. It's not theoretical. I tell people all the time, please don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. It's like your flower essences. Like, don't take my word that it's good. Use it, try it, compare, have a baseline, compare what happens after, and prove it to yourself. And when you speak with your authentic voice, everything else gets easier. So then, of course, manifesting is easier because we're speaking to create something and we create it, it comes back to us. Does that make sense? That whole system?
Totally, totally. Say something more, please, about, um, just because I love how you describe this, about why it's important to do things the way that is natural to you, because we go through life believing that um, what is natural to us is flawed in some way. Like our job is to, you know, um, find the best way of doing it and do it that way. And like, how
Yeah.
could my natural way be somehow better than whatever is the best way out there.
Yeah. I think on so for the example I just gave, if someone has a gate 62 defined, they're going to be perfectly happy in the engineer science family because they speak in detail, they plan, they're strategic, they can do all those things. So that's natural to them. I think when we are speaking in a conditioned way, other people's intuition hear the dissonance, whether they're ever conscious of it or not. It's sort of like if you've ever gone to a conference as someone is speaking in industry terms or very high level academic professional speak, um, and you can't hear them, like you can't track what they're saying. Part of that is maybe you're not familiar with those terms, but I think part of it also is that person is probably not designed to speak in that way. So when we're struggling to understand someone and we're not able to, or we have to really focus and really try hard to understand someone, to me, that's just the energetic mismatch. They're speaking in details in this strategic structure, but they're meant to be telling a story. And my body knows that on
Ah,
an unconscious level. I feel it on a level that I'm probably never conscious of. It's a little like art. When we look at art, we don't go, oh, that proportion of that arm doesn't fit the leg, doesn't fit the. We just know that we don't really like that painting. We don't really like it because the proportions are off and we feel it. We can't identify it, but we know. And so, what I found for whether you're whatever, regardless of your type, if you're doing a lot of speaking and people are not connecting to you and not hearing to you, then that's what I immediately want to go to a chart for and go, okay, tell me how you're speaking and what you're talking about. And then if I look at their chart and that's just not even, it's not a defined space, I'm like, then I want to know where did you learn that? And have you tried communicating as a storyteller? Have you tried taking quantum physics? I didn't understand until I read a book like Alice in Quantum Land or whatever, where they made Alice in Wonderland a story so I could understand quantum physics. So the energetic mismatch, and I think we all, our body also knows we're speaking it with an energetic mismatch. We're not cohesive, we're
yeah.
fragmented. And we know it and they know it. And then that's a problem, especially in the online world where people's exposure to you is a lot of times written. But even in videos, I think we feel the dissonance.
You know where you can sometimes, well, for me, I see it always if I'm watching TED Talks, because all the TED Talks now have to be somehow the same, right? Like everybody gets
Mhm.
coached to do a TED Talk that has these qualities, and there are, 10 or
Right,
15 of them.
right.
And you can tell when someone is a natural, um, when someone is following their natural way of speaking, or
Yeah,
where someone has been coached to put their content into this
yeah.
framework. And it's
Artificial
awful.
framework.
It's awful. And these
It
people are
is.
so gifted and they have so much to share.
Yeah.
And they're squeezing themselves into this TED Talk
Yes.
um, box. You can
Yeah.
totally tell. I went this last summer in July, I guess it was. I went to Barcelona to the Science of Consciousness conference, which was
Oh, very
completely
cool.
mind-blowing
I
event. It was
bet. How
six
exciting.
days of nonstop speeches,
Crazy.
like from 8:30 in the morning till basically 10 o'clock at night for
Yeah.
6 days in a row with little breaks, like nonstop speeches, lectures. And some of the people were so compelling, and it didn't matter the level of um, academic
Yeah. Their
intensity, rigor,
knowledge. Yeah. Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
them were super compelling and some of them were not. Like a guy like Rupert Sheldrake is
Oh my
so
gosh. I'm so
entertaining, so compelling to listen to,
amazing.
Federico
Yeah.
Fagin or Nassim Haramein. Like
Oh my gosh. I can't. I'm so jealous now.
these guys are on fire, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter that I'm like watching blackboards of equations. and
Right.
like taking notes and nodding my head and my eyebrows are
Yeah,
going
like you
up, right?
understand it. Yeah, yeah.
Like
And you do on
there's,
an intuitive level.
and then there were other people who I managed to extract what they were trying to say, even though it was mind-numbingly boring. But I could intellectually say, this is really important stuff. But it
Right.
was a super snooze. And what I
Took
would have
effort.
wanted to say to that person is like, be more engaging or like connect with your audience more. But
Yeah.
really, what they need to know is how they should be
Yes.
expressing according to their
Yeah.
own design.
Yes, exactly. And what if you just beautifully described that so well because you could feel it.
Yeah,
You had someone speaking about amazing concepts that are just, but your body perceived it and understood it effortlessly.
yeah.
The other people, you're like, okay, I get it, but I'm expending energy to get it. Like I'm
That's
using
it. You have to expend
brain
energy.
power. Yeah. We're not designed to, in any part of us, we're not designed to have to work like that to understand someone. And I did not know that about the TED Talks, and now it all makes sense to me because I used to love watching them, and now I don't. I
I
just,
know.
it's that intuitive, like I don't like TED Talks anymore, but I didn't know why. I just don't like them, and
I
now,
didn't think of it
now I
either
know
until
why.
just now when,
Oh,
when we were
brilliant.
talking about this, because it
Brilliant.
makes so
Yeah.
much sense. There, all those
Yeah.
people are being like, you don't get on stage at a TED Talk without having been, coached in
Right.
how to perfectly time your 18 and a half minutes or whatever you get. And
Right.
you need to get all the pieces in. You have to ask the audience questions. You have to tell a story. You have to, all the
Right.
things. And it ends up like
Robotic.
sterilizing
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
um the self-generated um frequency of
Yes.
communicating.
Frequency. Yep. Yep. What, so when people are doing that, I don't watch TED Talks anymore, right? At all. And so those people are losing audience. They're losing their reach, and they don't understand why either. And they may not even know they're losing their reach, but they definitely lost me. So when we have a culture, which I think is dying away, and you probably feel that too, of people have had it with the guru coach model,
Yeah.
with the what if I told you? You see that on a post and you're like, moving on.
Yeah.
Can't even. It's the problem when I have no problem using AI, but you have to take it as inspiration and then make it your own. So I bring my story to it. I bring my experience. I bring my emotion and my passion. But when we read some AI stuff, even if it makes sense, we can feel the roboticness of it. We can feel that that person's presence, frequency is not in the words.
Yeah.
And we're going to see more of that where people are like, I want a human voice. I want a story. I want detail if you're a detail person. I want to hear about your experiments. I want to hear about your life, what you've done, going back to sitting around the fire in our little villages and learning from each other on a horizontal platform, not you speaking at me in a formulaic way where I can't even hear you.
Yeah. One of the things that I took from your book um was that you said human design is a kind of permission slip. It gives you like a permission slip
Yeah.
to uh, to follow something that's natural to you that you
Yes.
previously thought you weren't allowed to. And that's what it's done for me, I have to say. Like since I have gotten more, I had my chart read a couple of times in the last few years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just thought it was really cool, but it didn't, it's so, it's so vast, that it's kind of
Yeah.
like it's like I don't know what, a tarot card reading or something. Like you take away something from it in the moment and it's
Yeah.
interesting,
There's
but
always more layers. Yeah.
since I really understood about following my sacral authority,
Yeah.
that has really um, given me a kind of permission slip to,
Definitely.
uh, or even I would say, even retroactively, like I did some crazy things in this last year in 2025. I made some humongous investments in myself that are like
You.
way
Yeah.
outside my comfort zone, um, with very little thought. It was like
Mm.
it's it's a yes in my body in the moment, and I just know that I'm supposed to do this,
Yeah.
and that it's not supposed to make any sense to me because
Right.
those are not the same thing. Like this is not
Right.
passing through my intellectual way
Right.
of the check boxes that I normally would do because
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. But those things have been so powerful for me. And one
Yeah.
of them was the decision to go to New York for this 3 day um, a conference that I was at, a kind of business networking thing, which was it was definitely fun. It was interesting. I met a lot of cool people. Okay, like, was it worth the massive investment that I made to do it? In the
Yeah.
last hour that I was there was where I got the impulse to put Bach flowers together with human design.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that happened sitting there at that conference. I don't know if it would have happened anywhere else. And I had to do it immediately because the people were there that I wanted to connect with, and I wanted to give them a bottle of my blend.
Right.
And
Right.
I literally sat at a table, like with the clock ticking, in my little dropper bottles, making up bottles of manifesting generator blend to give to all the people I knew were manifesting generators because I had
Love it.
everybody's information from our intake files.
Right.
It was in everyone's bio. And
Right.
that has changed the course of my business and my life. That's what I was
Effortlessly.
doing there. And it does
Yeah.
not make any sense. But
No.
I needed to be there with I needed to be there with my set of Bach flowers and a case of
Yeah.
empty glass bottles that I didn't know what to do with
Right.
in order
Right.
for that fire to, like a
Yeah. Yeah.
spark
For it to
lit
all
up.
come together in that magical synchronicity. And we get to slip right into that synchronicity, serendipity, availability by following the body. The body knows, the mind does not. The mind is the passenger. They'll see like a car analogy in human design where the body is the vehicle that carries us through this life. And the body will carry us in the most effortless way. Not that we never struggle, not that we never, we always are going to encounter challenges to grow, but we move with magic. We hear the world and all the voices in the world and all the signs and the cool stuff. When we let our bodies say, go to this conference, and your mind is like, you're nuts. That's a lot of money. You already know that stuff. There's no reason to go. And you're like, body's like, I know more than you.
Totally.
I know the
Totally.
whole life plan. Get out of the way.
Get
So
out of
mind
the
is
way.
like the backseat driver. We can't hand the keys to the backseat driver. They can't drive. That's a
I
beautiful.
um I'm so into this idea of the body being so um critical to the
Yeah.
spiritual development journey. And
Yes.
that's something really relatively new for me to wrap my head around. Um, but that's another big part of why I wanted initially to, or what drove me. Nothing drove me. It was another one of those downloads to put
Sure.
the archetypes of consciousness together with Bach flowers. I was feeling frustrated learning, well, a process called shadow alchemy,
Oh,
which is a
love
description
shadow
of
work.
these, archetypal geometries of energy that are at work inside of us. And like you could have a kind of insight where you'd say, okay, I understand that this is a piece of conditioning. I understand that this is a lie that feels like a truth for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, when I move in the world, my body still reacts, right? I still cannot confront that kind of situation or fear without having a somatic response, that an
Right.
unwanted one that is going to
Yeah.
hold me back from taking this action. I
Yeah.
wanted something that would um, like incarnate the change into my
Wow.
body so
Well
that my
said.
nervous system is completely on board with this new reality.
Yeah.
And when I had the, flash of whatever we want to say, bolt of lightning that said Bach flowers and archetypes, go, you know, um, I thought that's kind of weird. Like I've been a homeopath for more than 25 years and I don't
Yeah.
I don't really revere the Bach flowers. Like they're
Right.
some kind of basic beginner level thing. And in the
Yeah.
beginning, I thought it was just going to be a beginner level entryway into like doing um, this kind of combining the archetypes with homeopathy. I thought that's where I was going with it. And when I started to work, it was like it could not be any more perfect. It was
Yeah.
made for this. It was tailor made. They're like hand in glove. And
Yeah.
the thing that they started to do for me right away was embodying the change so that
Yes.
it's just a like
Yeah.
there is no question about this.
Right.
And that's now what my clients who are using these human design blends, I made
Yeah.
a little kind of really short testimonial reel of people saying just, just clipping a few words of what they told me in their testimonials. People are saying things like, I don't have to justify my self-worth anymore.
Right.
As if like, what a ridiculous thing. Somebody else said, I can't believe that I would ever say yes to something I don't want to do. Why would I do
Right.
that? And
Right.
that's big. Like to have that be like so obvious in your body. Like this is not negotiable. Like it's not even a
Right.
thing. I would never dream of trying to justify my own worth or
Right.
saying yes to
This was
something I
like
don't want to do.
just some like your life before was like just a weird dream you had. Like
Yeah.
it's so weird.
Like
Like I can't believe I
what was I
ever acted
thinking?
like that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I'm taking mine. I've got it right here.
Oh, great.
I have the projector blend, and before you started recording, I was letting you know that when I first started taking it, and I've taken flower essences before periodically at different stages of my life, but I haven't taken them in years and years. But did so much work last year digging out ancestral lineage patterns, things that I inherited but weren't really mine, but stories in my DNA and things like that that when I started taking it, I had a big upsurge of grief and sadness that I could feel was mine, but not mine. It
Mm.
was like a miasm or something,
Yeah, yeah.
like a veil being pulled out of me, out of my cells. And I didn't expect that at all when I was taking it, but I knew what was happening. And so I just was working acupressure points and letting myself have emotions about it. And it felt like, as all that stuff was leaving, the flower essences were putting all the pieces back together in the new form. Like we talked about defragmenting your computer
Yeah.
or dropping a jigsaw puzzle and all the pieces go everywhere, but you putting the jigsaw puzzle back as it's a different puzzle and all the pieces start coming back together. So for me it feels like it's integrating me into a new state of a new wholeness, a new
Mm.
normal. um because that grief has been lifelong and I've worked it from numerous directions. And now it feels like here's an example. I was watching this British soap opera last night, and I used to just crack apart if a character lost their spouse. And the woman lost her spouse, and I was like, oh, that's sad. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm not like bawling on the floor because I saw Romeo and Juliet when I was like 13 and I couldn't walk for like 2 days. I was just devastated. And I was like, that's profoundly different because even a few months ago, I would have been on the floor because that person lost their spouse and it was tragic and horrible. And so I'm attributing that to this new normal is like, yeah, that's sad, but I don't have this junk that's laying me out because of a piece of a story. Is that,
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly that's a great description of the shift, that like this idea of a new normal.
Yeah.
It's not like you wake up and have three arms
Right.
and say, what happened to me? I'm so different.
Right.
Like for many people, they don't know, they can't articulate what is
Yeah.
different, you know?
Right.
Um, and even for some, I mean, I interviewed one woman um, who wanted to tell me, that there'd been a big change in her. And I asked her whether other people had
Oh,
noticed a change in her.
yeah.
And she said, I don't think so. But as we kept talking later in the interview, she said, and all my friends are suddenly saying, what? You just let that go? That's not like you. You don't do
Right. Isn't
that.
that funny?
And then she
Yeah.
laughed and said, oh, I guess they are noticing that I've changed. Like she
Yeah.
couldn't, it wasn't in her face. Like,
Right.
yes, people are noticing how different I am. I mean, I have to
Yeah.
say that my husband has mentioned more than once, like, you are really, really changed. Like you are
Wow.
way different than
Cool.
you used to be. And he's changed too, of course, because I'm
Yeah.
changing and he's changing, and he does a great deal of meditation work. I mean, he's somebody who
Oh,
takes
yeah.
his personal sort of spiritual growth very seriously. Um, but I'm changing and he's changing and he's changing and I'm changing, and it's lovely to be in that. But one of the reasons that I really wanted to have this kind of self-assessment part
Mm.
that we were
Hmm.
talking about earlier
Yeah.
is that um, it's been my experience in over 25 years of being a classical homeopath that people come back into my office after a month or 6 weeks and say, I
Yeah.
don't think that remedy is doing anything for me. And as I
Right.
as I read back the list of, how about those migraines? Well, I just haven't had any of those lately. And how
Right.
about the sleep? Yeah, I'm sleeping okay now. And how
Yeah.
about all the, that like terrible whatever, perspiration you were having? Yeah, that seems to be gone, right? And there would be like 10 things, because when it's gone, it's not like
Good
wake up every
change.
day saying, "Oh my God, I haven't had a headache in 8 days."
Right. Right.
I mean, some people do, but for most people, you just forget. Like, unless
Yeah.
there's a kind of pain that suddenly goes away, and within
Right.
5 minutes you're pain free and you can't believe it.
Right. Right.
It just feels like you in a good moment.
Right.
And
Yeah.
some of the people who have been taking these human design blends have said, like, I know that I rated that a 8 out of 10 on the initial form. I don't even know what I was talking about. Like, I can't relate to that at all.
Because
Like,
yeah,
I don't
it's
remember why I felt like that.
yeah. Yeah.
So I've had to add um, extra questions on the questionnaire saying, like,
Get to
for
it.
anything
Yeah.
that you rated 6 or over, put some words down for yourself here to remind you
Right.
of what you're talking about,
Right.
because you're not going to remember when you come
Right.
back. And
Yeah.
I think mostly people can't even believe that that's true, but it's
Yeah.
been my experience,
Absolutely. I did.
interviewing the clients.
I think any kind of change that would happen when I was a therapist, that would happen as as a coach. Having that baseline measurement is important.
Yeah.
I have run a course called Less Hustle, More Human Design, and I have a pre-work form that's like that, pretty comprehensive, because I know that people will not. We just don't, because it's a new normal, so we just take it for granted now that we don't, dissolve into a puddle when somebody loses their spouse. It's just like it starts to feel foreign, like you said, like, oh, I don't even recognize myself anymore. But I think what I love about human design, and I love about what you're doing with flower essences, patterns don't resolve and stay resolved until they're processed and settled in the body, right? So you can go to therapy for 15 years, think you've got the pattern resolved, and a year later, there it is wearing a different face. But that actually ends permanently when it's resolved in the physical, in the body. So I love that you're taking that stuff. I think human design is one of the most amazing embodiment tools there is because you can't use your authority if you're disconnected from everything below the waist. You've got to be able to feel your gut. And I love that this works just hand in hand with that.
Totally. And I'm somebody who has always, like, I'm very much in my head, very, but like that,
Mm-hmm.
it is my nature to
Mm-hmm.
be
Me
very
too.
much in my head. And
Yeah.
anytime someone would say, just drop into your body now, I didn't know, I had the faintest idea what they're talking about. Like,
Right.
there's nothing, no part
What
of me that,
body? Yeah.
that, that connects with that. I've had to work,
Yeah.
um, I've had to work intentionally to
Yes.
develop some sense of feeling my body. But I have to say that um, when something um, hits me, it's a full body
Yeah.
knowing. Like it when I
Yeah.
have a an insight or I get a download or something,
Yeah.
it just overtakes me. Like there's no part of me that doesn't know that that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I think a lot of people think they're grounded, and they actually aren't. When I always thought I was in my body because I was an athlete. I mountain biked, I solo backpacked for years, and I was like, of course I'm in my body. Don't be ridiculous. I use my body all the time. This is not all the same. And I was doing some of my first energy work through the lens of being a coach, and my legs started like itching and feeling antsy, like I had ants in my pants. And I was like, what is this? And she was like, now you're in your body.
Huh.
And then I would feel like this wave of energy go through my legs and out my feet in my body. And I was like, I haven't ever been in here, or maybe I've been out of here for a long time. All this time, I thought. But I think flower remedies really help that, and human design helps it because it's like you got to be in your body. I don't know what that means. Okay, well, let's look at it. Let's get the supports in place. Then once you have that felt experience, it's an anchor and they can go from there.
Yeah, you have a lot
Yeah.
of great tips for embodying in your book. I really
Yeah,
appreciated
it's really
those.
important to me. Yeah. Thank you.
And there's one thing that I thought was so cool because I don't know that I've ever heard this before, that intuition belongs to the spleen.
Oh yeah. And yeah, that's the
Like what the heck, right?
yeah.
Like that's
Isn't
so
that weird?
counterintuitive, but
Right.
I was really happy to read that, and that was a kind
Yeah.
of aha for me, but like that's a
Yeah.
first for me. I never had heard
Yeah.
before articulated that intuition goes with the spleen. So what can you
Yeah.
say about that?
Yeah. Well, the traditional or Hindu chakra system has seven major ones. Of course, there's like 100 and something,
Yeah.
but seven major ones that most of us are familiar with. And so human design is saying that in the 1700s, we split into a nine-centered being, and the emotional solar plexus became two. We have the emotional solar plexus, and then the spleen became like a different energy center.
Mm.
And the spleen is immediate survival, um, instantaneous. This is dangerous, or it's not. It's not dangerous. Those things.
Yeah.
Um, and we know without knowing how we know. So it also has irrational fears. Every one of the splenic gates has an irrational mental fear attached to it based in I gotta survive. So imposter syndrome's in the spleen. And we know they're mental because when we challenge them, they disappear. They're not true survival impulse. If it's a true survival thing, I'm running. I don't think about if I should run. I'm running. That's true root center like survival. If I drop a knife, I don't think maybe I should snatch my foot away. I just snatch it away, right? Whereas the spleen fears are, oh, the money is sitting at this number. Oh my God, I should panic. Or, oh, I got this download. Like you could have experienced that when you had that moment. You could have been like, well, who am I? I don't even use flower essences. They're going to think I'm weird or whatever. That would be the spleen. Like, don't reach out there, they're going to think you're
Yeah.
weird. You're going to die alone in the woods, eaten by wolves, if you do something dumb that gets you kicked out of the tribe, right? So it's immediate survival, intuition, and then the other information that's not in the human design, but I feel is correct, is the vagus nerve, which
Mm.
runs through our whole entire body. It's constantly picking up information that we're not conscious of and giving us feelings and impulses. And, we know that our heart centers connect 3 feet radius of a heart field that can be measured. So if I'm standing next to you, of course I'm picking up your heart. Of course you're picking up my heart. But all these things are just on the body level. So the mind just dismisses them. But when we anchor in that, when we listen to that immediate response, when we feel like you for your gut response and follow it, then that embodiment just gets stronger and stronger. And then life gets easier and easier. I've seen that happen hundreds of times, and it's happened for me.
Me too. I would
Yeah,
say there's no
yeah,
question.
yeah.
It's well, maybe it comes back to the permission slip idea, but just
No,
once you say like, yes, of course, like if this feels right to me, I just do
right.
it. And I just know that the suite of things, I mean the things that are going to follow this
Right.
is it's the way it's supposed to be, and it might
Yes.
not make any sense to me. It's like I
Yeah.
tell my clients that, like, you're reading a novel and you're in the middle where the protagonist is like
Exactly.
at the most difficult place or whatever, right?
Right.
The
Right.
like that's where you are, and you don't get to know the end of the story. Like that
Right. Right.
it's it
That's
the it's
that's a
it wouldn't
great
be a story
analogy.
if there was like every day the best thing happens and it goes along so nicely and everybody's happy, right? Like
Right.
you have a life story, a script,
Uh,
and this is the moment where the protagonist is in deep shit and nobody knows what's going
Right.
to happen next. But
Right.
like
You're just gonna have to
how
wait.
how bad can it be
Yeah.
um that the bad thing is always seemingly related to conditioning and what other people how other people
Absolutely.
assess where you are,
Yes.
and not your own innate uh feeling about um what's happening to you.
Yeah.
That's not about what other people think.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned permission slip again because I was surprised at how much human design it's a shame buster. I
Yeah.
had so many manifesting generators and manifestors. Maybe it's the manifestor part of the manifesting generator that just carried such shame about, well, I'll always start things and I never finish them. And I'm always, I'm always out of order. I'm out of step. I don't read all the directions. I end up having to redo stuff, because I don't follow it step by step. And it's a pure joy to tell someone like that, like, you're not supposed to go step by step.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do step one, step seven, step two, fuck it up, and then you can
Yeah.
bleep me if you need to, but
No.
then have it to to go back, because then the gift that you give to the rest of us is, what, we can just pull step 4 and 5 out of that. We don't even need it. And you just
Yeah.
streamline it. It becomes focus for the rest of us. And I was like, every manifesting generator I know has a closet full of unfinished quilts, yarn projects, collaging, woodworking. Like, they have a whole garage full of projects they got deeply into. And then when you're done, you're done. And
Yeah.
then our culture makes people feel really bad about, you wasted all that money, you
Yeah.
wasted all that time, you bought a whole set of woodworking tools and you don't even do it anymore. It's like, but your energy field is required to create, 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 create. And sometimes you're obsessed with something just for the energy to have a place to go. And then when you're done, you're done. Donate to Goodwill and move on. There's no shame. So I've been really struck by how conditioning affects us so terribly and really is rooted in so much shame. I'm so ashamed of how I am. For projectors, they're so ashamed that they're, you know, 25 years old and need an afternoon nap or can't work a 9 to 5 traditional schedule. They
Yeah.
just can't, and they burn out, and then they feel I had to undo a lot of shame about that. And then a lot of burnout that I brought on myself because of forcing myself to fit
Yeah.
into that 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour a week framework. So permission slip, yeah. Why don't you just be who you are? You're a person that's going to spend a lot of time and money on projects, and then you're going to donate them and move on to something else. And that's how you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just love that we, whoops, I just love that we have such different and compatible ways of describing the same
Yeah,
the
the
same
repellers.
thing, which is that doing for yourself, like putting yourself at the center of what you do,
Yes.
is the gateway to your
Yes.
growth. It's the gateway to spiritual development. It's
Yeah.
I say that radical selfishness is the portal to unity consciousness, actually.
100%
You
agree with
know,
that.
like
Yeah.
unlikely, it's the most unlikely thing. And, the reason that we revere or want to condition people to be selfless and generous and compassionate is because we recognize those aspects of our true nature
Yeah.
in people. But you can't get there from here without passing through that
Yes.
place of being completely radically about yourself. Because if you're
Yeah.
only doing it for other people, if you're doing it
Right.
to get the conditioning, dopamine or whatever, um, you are going to burn out. You're going
Yes.
to run out of resource.
Yeah.
And
And people's businesses fail.
yeah, yes, they do. And because you want it to be, successful instead of just being what you want to do in this moment
Yeah.
and letting
Yeah.
that be okay and trusting that that's going to um, lead you in the right direction, which doesn't
Right.
always look like um, conventional success. Like if you
Exactly.
want to be a non-conditioned, a deconditioned person, you
Right.
can't be still running after conventional success. I want to be deconditioned, but I want the Nobel Prize, or I want $1 million, or I want my,
Right. I want it on
you
my
know,
terms,
yeah,
on the
it,
mind. It's a game, right? I tell people will say, well, my sacral said yes, and it was a disaster. And I'm like, well, let's look at that a little more closely. What did you get out of the disaster? So sometimes your sacral will say yes to something that on the mental level looks like it was a mistake, but it never is.
yeah,
So I invested an enormous amount of money last year, and on a mental level, it could look like I made a huge mistake. But I've been working with my authority long enough that I knew I I trusted my body. My body's like shaking. My hands were shaking when I was filling out the form. And I was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And my body was like, "Yes, this is the next step." So, from an outsider's perspective or from a purely mental perspective, it could look like I flushed $29,000 down the drain, but I didn't because I got so much out of being plopped into a system that I always thought was my missing piece. And I got to firsthand experientially discover, like, oh no, I am never gonna be a person who can do traditional marketing. I am never going to be a person who can do what they're telling me to do and it works for them. It's never going to work for me. I can finally let this
ta-da,
go. Yeah. And I'm like, it had an expensive price tag on it, but it will save me money in the long run because
yeah,
I kept thinking, well, if I just do it, maybe if I just do it, wish I should know better by now. And so I spent several months, like literally, my business just dropped and dropped and dropped. And then I had a whole month of no sales and I could not believe it. And I was terrified. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, duh. How about you go back to your human design? And the
Yeah.
minute I did, I made a sale like that afternoon. And then the books were flowing better. I wasn't making sales, but it was a struggle. It was effort. And now it's back to effortlessness. So, yeah, your body will say yes to things. Don't judge the outcome while you're in the middle of it. And then don't judge the outcome from a mental perspective. Look at the body's perspective and the soul, the long, the long view of your whole life. Yeah, I love that. So if you hadn't paid attention to your body, we wouldn't have these little bottles of magic. So I'm so
Oh,
glad
thank
you
you for
listened.
saying that. No,
Yeah.
I have never felt more well. I've never been more excited to be alive. I've never
Oh, I love that.
felt so much like I jump out of bed in the morning and I can't wait
Right.
to get at my day and to do what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm changing all the time. And sometimes I'm super enthusiastic about posting and
Yeah.
doing live streams. And then sometimes I go 3 or 4 weeks with like zero content.
Yeah. Not
I
a
just
problem.
made a list of everything well, not everything, surely, but many of the things that I did in 2025, and like
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now going, I can't believe that I might ever say like that I didn't accomplish something. I
Right.
got a new client has enrolled to work with me, um, who was attracted to content on an old podcast website
Uh,
that I haven't contributed
awesome.
to in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. It
And
fight.
like that material is out there and
Yes.
it will ripen for someone
Yes. Yes.
who's
And they'll
ready for it,
find you
and
when
not
they're ready.
necessarily the next thing. When I think about all the synchronicities that happen when I'm
Yeah.
um aligned like this. And like I said, like that whole um conference in New York that I went to was really maybe just about that insight that I
That
had,
last hour.
that last hour that had nothing to do with what I was, ostensibly learning there with the content.
Yeah.
It was something that came through to me because of how everything had been structured and because I had set myself up to do an event that got canceled, that I had all the stuff with me, that I knew all the people who were manifesting generators, right? I needed all of that synchronicity in order
Yeah.
to light up this little spark.
Yeah.
And what a great way to live. Like, I
Yeah.
love that.
Your
I
mind
love it.
couldn't have planned that out.
Yeah.
There's no way the mind could even have known that's what was coming. So our culture has prioritized the mind at the expense of our intuition, and that serves power structures, for us to be disconnected from our body. But the more embodiment we do, the more that synchronicity field increases, and that life just becomes so much more effortless and fun,
As it should be.
as it should be, as it should be.
No,
Yeah,
it's another big permission piece. Like letting it be okay for
yeah,
things to be effortless and fun, because
right.
there's a huge degree of conditioning around
Mm,
um, validation for working hard and struggling.
right, right. Yeah, that's all crumbling away.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's painful, but for some people, it's not for us because we've been doing it different for a while. But the way we do these things differently will just continue to grow, I believe. I really do.
Well, let me just ask you, what have we not touched on that you would want to get in before we finish?
I would just really encourage people to get their human design and stick with the basics of type, strategy, and authority for a little while so you can prove to yourself that it does work. And then go to the throat and then go to the all the other fascinating things. But I put emphasis on the throat because all the all the energy in the chart goes to the throat because we create what we speak, including what we say to each other, including what we say inside to ourselves.
Mm.
Like that, we speak the world into existence. We write it into existence. So, but with people, we'll just run an experiment, type strategy and authority, stick with that for a month, and then notice what's different. I can't stress that enough. And don't worry about all systems have weird, wacko, crazy, culty stuff with them, and human design is no exception. But if they'll just do that and get into the body, their life will change. It always does. It has never failed.
That's so great. And just remind the listeners where they can go to get a free chart reading.
A free chart I get from geneticmatrix.com. And then a paid reading is at my website, planethumandesign.com, where we will go over the whole chart in a comprehensive way, and then I'll take it and make it practical because I don't like dumping a bunch of, fire hosing. Well, this gate and that planet and this
Yeah.
center and blah blah blah. It's like, no, tell me how I make more money. Tell me how I can cure my chronic fatigue or whatever. Well, it's here, do this, try this. I like practical. I want it to be useful.
Oh,
Otherwise, what's
that's
the
great.
point?
Um, I will put all of your links into the show
Thank
notes
you.
so that people can find this, but those are the main websites to look at. And thank you so much for doing this. This
Thank
was a
you.
wonderful conversation. I just love talking with you. We'll have to do that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I
And
miss
I'm
you.
going to follow up, of course, and hear more about how you do with this blend.
Yes, I'm excited. We've got 4 more weeks, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much, Laura Michelle. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.